On the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam's speech, Anas radiallahu anh said, كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا تكلم بكلمة أعادها ثلاثا حتى تفهم عنه. That when the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam spoke, he always said the sentences, the words, he repeated himself 3 times so that it was clear to the people and everybody understood. This shows the Prophet ﷺ putting emphasis on some of his statements. Sometimes when something was very important, the Prophet would say it extra times, so 3 times, so the people understood very clearly, and so that he made sure that people understand the seriousness and the greatness of the issue. For example, one day the Sahabas, they were washing their feet and they weren't washing them properly. They went to an expedition and they were just putting water over it. The Prophet said, وَيْلٌ لِلْآقَابِ مِنَ النَّارِ 3 times. Save your heels from the hellfire. The Prophet repeated it 3 times to show them the seriousness of the issue. Okay, this is a big issue. So the Prophet ﷺ used to repeat his words 3 times. Aisha radiallahu anha mentioned that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he did not speak like any of us. He didn't speak fast. The Prophet spoke properly, enunciating every word to the point that everyone could distinguish between each word. So the people could understand what is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam trying to convey. So in the Prophet's gathering, when the Prophet came to his gatherings, he used to start in the name of Allah and he used to leave in the name of Allah. In other words, he used to mention Allah at the beginning and he used to mention Allah at the end. So the gatherings were filled with speeches remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-Hasan bin Ali radiallahu anhu, the grandson of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, I asked my maternal uncle, Hind bin Abi Hala, which is the son of Khadija radiallahu anha from her previous marriage, I asked him to describe the Prophet ﷺ's speech. And he said the Prophet ﷺ used to keep long periods of silence. The Prophet would be quiet for a long time. And he only spoke when there was a need to speak. So the Prophet ﷺ didn't just speak without any need. When he spoke, وَمَا يَنْطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيُ يُوحَىٰ, what the Prophet ﷺ says and does, it is what? Indirectly, at least from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet doesn't just speak out of his own will. What the Prophet said and he done, it was wahi. Many a times you see the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, they are wahi. So the Prophet ﷺ didn't just speak without a need. The Prophet spoke because he thought carefully every word that was coming out of his mouth. And of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِذْ يَتَلَقَّى الْمُتَلَقِّيَانِ عَنِ الْيَمِينِ وَعَنِ الشِّمَالِ قَاعِدٍ مَا يَلْفِظُ مِنْ قَوْلٍ إِلَّا لَدَيْهِ رَقِيبٌ عَتِيدٌ. There is on your right and on your left 2 angels that are writing down every single thing we say and we do. So the Prophet ﷺ, every word, he was very careful that came out of his mouth. He said that the Prophet ﷺ used to begin his speech and end it with the name of Allah. And his speech was concise yet comprehensive. And we'll come to that very soon, inshallah. There was no excess in his speech, and there was no deficiency either in his speech. And he did not criticize food. Meaning the Prophet talked and he said things that were important. Anything dunya related that wasn't important, the Prophet ﷺ did not care about it. And that's why Ibn Umar radiallahu anh said that the Prophet ﷺ said, لا تكثروا الكلام بغير ذكر الله فإن كثرة الكلام بغير ذكر الله قسوة للقلب وإن أبعد الناس من الله القلب القاسي. Do not say too many statements or too many words, or do not speak too much without remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For indeed, too much speaking in other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the dunya related affairs and matters and whatnot makes an individual's heart very hard. So speaking too much is not something that the believer should be doing, especially laghu, evil speech, speech that doesn't have any benefit. We should all, including myself, the reminder is to myself first and foremost, is to not waste time talking about things that are not very important. Our households, with our wives, with our children, we need to talk about Quran and Hadith. We shouldn't just come in and talk about random topics and just waste time all the time. Yes, there is a bit of time where you have fun, joke around, relax, do that which is allowed in the religion of Islam to connect with your family, but always just being in a position where all you're doing is talking about irrelevant things that are not important, it's not something that the believer should do. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he said that the Prophet ﷺ says, أُعْطِيتُ جَوَامِيَ الْكَلِمِ. The Prophet ﷺ said, I was given جَوَامِيَ الْكَلِمِ. I was given words that are concise but comprehensive in the meaning. That's why one hadith of the Prophet, you can bring so many things, right? So, for example, one day a man came and he asked the Prophet, what is the deen? And the Prophet said, ad-deenu nasiha. The deen is nasiha, is advice. قلنا لمن? We said, to who يا رسول الله? لله ولكتابه ولرسوله ولأئمة المسلمين وعمتهم. Meaning the Prophet summarized in this hadith something big into something small. So the Prophet's statements, again, this is a sign of his true prophethood. They were very concise, but the meaning goes broad. Many scholars have written, like Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali actually, he used to take certain hadith of the Prophet ﷺ and he used to write a whole book on it, right? For example, the famous hadith of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, يحفظ الله يحفظك, right? So the Prophet ﷺ, this shows one hadith is filled with so many lengthy words and paragraphs and evaluations that you can make. So this is the Prophet ﷺ's speech. Concise, little, but enough for anyone to understand, to the point that every man, woman, and even child would understand the Prophet ﷺ. It's as if you could, when the Prophet spoke, in some narrations is mentioned, it's as if you could count the words. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Meaning it was so clear in his speech. This is important because prophets, they were conveying the message, so they needed to know how to speak. Knowing how to be eloquent, it's a very important skill that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses only some people with, but it is of course something that you can train. They mentioned Shuhaib alayhi salam, he was the Khatibul Anbiya. He was the best when it came to giving the speeches, to the point that they say he is basically the orator, right? He's the khatib of all of the prophets, meaning he was very eloquent in his speech. So the prophets, they were very eloquent in their speech. When Nuh alayhi salam was debating with his people, they said, Ya Nuh, قَدْ جَادَلْتَنَا فَأَكْثَرْتَ جِدَالَنَا. Nuh, you debated with us a lot. Luqman alayhi salam, when he's speaking to his son and he's giving him all of these advices, this shows the importance of speech and being able to articulate yourself well. And this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can give us also. Always make dua, Ya Allah, make my da'wah better. Allow me to be able to speak to people. Allow me to make better points. Allow Rabbi zidni ilma. The only thing that the Prophet ﷺ was told in the Quran to say is Rabbi zidni ilma. Allah, increase my knowledge, right? So this is important. Knowledge, speech, and this is how the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to speak. A little bit about him from the book Al-Shama'il Al-Muhammadiyya by Abu Isa At-Tirmidhi. Anything which I've said that's wrong or incorrect is for me and the shaitan, and Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam are both free from it. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.